Welcome to Speaking History. Imagine a woman in ancient Rome, a world ruled by men, where power was fought with swords and speeches, and women were expected to stay silent in the shadows. Yet, there was one woman who broke every rule. She was ruthless, fearless, and driven by a fierce thirst for vengeance that shook the very foundations of the Roman Republic. Her name was Fulvia, the wife of Mark Antony, one of Rome's most powerful leaders. But Fulvia was no ordinary wife. She wielded political influence and military power in a way no Roman woman dared. She was bold, controversial, and unforgettable. Today, we'll dive deep into her story, how she took brutal revenge on the great orator Cicero, how her fiery spirit ignited a civil war against Rome's rising ruler Octavian, and how her legacy made her one of the most notorious women in Roman history. Setting the historical context. After the assassination of Julius Caesar in 44 BC, Rome plunged into a period of chaos and civil war. The old republic, already fragile, was now a battlefield for power-hungry leaders fighting to control the future of Rome. Three men stood at the center of this storm: Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal general and passionate speaker; Octavian, Caesar's adopted heir and a shrewd political strategist; and Cicero, the famed orator and defender of the Republic, desperately trying to restore order and resist tyranny. This was a time of deadly proscriptions, lists of enemies marked for execution and confiscation of their property. Political alliances shifted like quicksand, and violence was the language of power. In this brutal, male-dominated world, it was almost unheard of for a woman to step beyond the domestic sphere, let alone take an active role in politics and war. Yet, Fulvia did just that. She was not content to be a passive observer. Instead, she threw herself into the heart of these deadly struggles, shaping history in ways few women ever had in ancient Rome. Who was Fulvia? Fulvia was born into one of Rome's wealthiest and most influential families. Her family's status gave her access to the highest circles of power, a privilege few women could claim in ancient Rome. But it wasn't just her birth that shaped her destiny. It was her remarkable drive and sharp mind. Before marrying Mark Antony, Fulvia was already politically connected through two earlier marriages. Her first husband was Clodius Pulcher, a controversial populist politician known for stirring public unrest. After his death, she married Gaius Scribonius Curio, a rising political star who was closely allied with Julius Caesar. These relationships placed Fulvia at the center of Rome's turbulent political scene, giving her invaluable experience and influence. Her marriage to Mark Antony, one of Caesar's closest generals and a dominant figure after Caesar's death, cemented her position at the pinnacle of Roman power struggles. But Fulvia was no mere bystander or ornamental wife. She was fiercely intelligent and ambitious, with a fiery personality that challenged the expectations of Roman women who were traditionally expected to remain quiet and submissive. Fulvia's boldness and political savvy made her a rare force in a male-dominated world. She was known for her passion and relentless pursuit of power, qualities that propelled her into the heart of Rome's most dangerous and decisive conflicts. The revenge on Cicero. The infamous. In 43 BC, Rome was gripped by the brutal practice of proscriptions, a deadly political purge where enemies of the ruling faction were publicly listed, condemned to death, and stripped of their property. These lists were a tool of terror and control, designed to eliminate opposition swiftly and send a chilling message to anyone who dared challenge power. Among the most famous victims was Marcus Tullius Cicero, Rome's greatest orator and staunch defender of the Republic. Cicero had openly opposed Mark Antony, delivering powerful speeches that painted Antony as a threat to Rome's freedom. When the proscriptions were declared by the Second Triumvirate, Antony, Octavian, and Lepidus, Cicero's name was on the list. After his capture, Cicero was executed, but the horror did not end there. According to ancient sources, Fulvia, Mark Antony's wife, took a personal and vicious part in exacting revenge. It is said that she spat on Cicero's severed head and pierced his tongue with her hairpins. This gruesome act was not merely an expression of personal hatred, it was a deliberate political statement. Cicero's tongue, once a weapon of words that had challenged Antony, was symbolically silenced and dishonored. Fulvia's act sent a fierce message of loyalty to Antony and a warning to his enemies, that opposition would be met with ruthless retribution. This episode immortalized Fulvia's image as a woman of fiery vengeance, one who crossed the boundaries of gender and civility to defend her husband's cause with shocking brutality. Fulvia's role in the Perusine War, 41 to 40 BC. After Julius Caesar's assassination, the fragile alliance between his top generals quickly unraveled. Mark Antony and Octavian, Caesar's adopted heir, found themselves locked in a deadly struggle for control over Rome and its vast empire. This intense rivalry erupted into the Perusine War from 41 to 40 BC, a civil conflict that tore Italy apart. In this turbulent conflict, Fulvia emerged not as a passive spectator, but as an active and fearless leader, a rare and startling role for a Roman woman. Determined to defend her husband Antony's political position against Octavian's rising power, Fulvia took the extraordinary step of raising legions of soldiers in Italy. She financed and mobilized troops, rallying support from Antony's allies to challenge Octavian's forces. But Fulvia didn't stop at being a behind-the-scenes power broker. Ancient historian Cassius Dio records that she literally strapped on a sword and personally addressed the troops, leading them with a boldness that defied Roman gender norms. She stepped into the traditionally male role of a military commander, inspiring soldiers with speeches and showing a warrior's courage. This unfeminine display of martial leadership shocked Roman society, where women were expected to remain confined to domestic roles and avoid public power struggles. Fulvia's actions challenged deeply ingrained ideas about gender and authority, making her both feared and controversial. Her leadership during the Perusine War showcased her fierce loyalty to Antony and her unwillingness to be sidelined in a man's world, actions that would leave a lasting mark on Roman history. The Perusine War, Civil War and Aftermath. The Perusine War erupted in 41 BC as a violent clash between the forces loyal to Mark Antony and those aligned with Octavian. Fulvia played a central role in this conflict, driven by a fierce determination to preserve Antony's power and protect her family's political future. At the heart of the war was the city of Perugia, modern-day Perugia, where Fulvia and her allies fortified themselves against Octavian's advancing legions. The conflict quickly turned into a brutal siege, with starvation and hardship testing the resolve of those trapped inside. Fulvia's leadership during this time was pivotal. She coordinated defenses, maintained morale, and continued to rally support for Antony's cause. Behind the scenes, political intrigue complicated the war. Antony was away in the eastern provinces, leaving Fulvia to act as his proxy in Italy. Her efforts to challenge Octavian's growing influence upset the fragile balance of power within the triumvirate, deepening the political rift. Despite her boldness and determination, Fulvia's forces eventually succumbed to Octavian's superior military strength. The city of Perugia fell after months of siege, forcing Fulvia to flee. Her defeat marked the end of her direct military influence. The consequences were severe. Fulvia's aggressive stance had not only failed, but also weakened Antony's position, prompting a temporary reconciliation between Antony and Octavian. For Fulvia personally, this defeat marked the beginning of her downfall. She was exiled from Rome and shortly afterward died, reportedly from illness. But her legacy of bold defiance remained etched in Roman history as a rare example of a woman who dared to take up arms in a world dominated by men. Fulvia's legacy, controversial and overlooked. Fulvia's legacy is a complex and often contradictory one. Throughout history, she has been remembered as fierce, vengeful, and deeply controversial. Ancient sources, many written by men, often vilified her, painting her as a disruptive force who overstepped traditional female boundaries with ruthless ambition. Yet, others have admired her courage and determination in a world where women were rarely allowed any political or military influence. What sets Fulvia apart is that she was one of the very few women in Roman history to wield genuine power, not just behind the scenes, but on the battlefield and in the political arena. At a time when women were expected to remain silent and submissive, Fulvia's boldness challenged the status quo and reshaped what was possible for women in her society. Her story highlights a broader theme about women's roles in history and the power dynamics that have often excluded them. Fulvia's life reminds us that women have always found ways to assert influence, even in the most restrictive and dangerous circumstances. Though often overshadowed by the men around her, Fulvia's fierce spirit and political acumen make her a symbol of resistance and ambition, a woman who refused to be invisible in the pages of history. Conclusion. Why Fulvia's story matters today. Fulvia's story continues to captivate us today because it challenges everything we think we know about power and gender in history. In a brutal era dominated by men, she dared to step into the spotlight, defying social norms, leading armies, and shaping the fate of Rome. Her boldness and defiance remind us that history isn't just about the victors or the rulers, it's about those who dared to challenge the rules and rewrite their own destinies. As we reflect on Fulvia's life, we are invited to reconsider how power operates, not just in ancient Rome, but in every era. What does it mean to wield influence? Who gets to tell history and who is left out? If you found Fulvia's story as fascinating as we do, leave a comment below. What do you think about a woman who took on the brutal world of Roman politics and war with such fearless determination? And don't forget to subscribe for our next episode, where we'll uncover more untold stories of history's most extraordinary figures. Thanks for watching Speaking History, where the past comes alive.